Welcome to the Innovators Insider podcast. This week we have a special guest, Rob Rodriguez. A lot of people in the CAD community may have heard of him, and he does a lot of design work and rendering. He's a rendering expert. And we also are going to review what is new in Onshape since the last time the podcast aired. A bunch of new additions, a huge list, so we'll go over that. And we'll also bring up some user group stuff with my colleague, Richard Doyle. How are you doing, Richard?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Michael?
Just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited about today's show. All about rendering, pretty much. And in fact, even a little bit in the user group update, we'll talk about a little bit about rendering. But first, let's talk about our guest. I've known Rob, I think it was late 2003, maybe early 2004. When I got an email from a guy named Rob Rodriguez, who was saying that he was considering starting a user group. And I think my response was 3 words: just do it. And he did. He's done a lot of other stuff too. He's got over 17 years in the CAD and design industry. He's worked in a variety of different CAD packages and different industries like residential buildings and furniture, HVAC systems, piping, and granite products. He's got experience in materials, plastic, wood, cast iron, and so on. He's been a user group leader, a blogger. He's presented at more user group meetings and conferences than I think even he could count. But what we're really interested in is his 11 years of experience in the rendering area. So let's welcome Rob Rodriguez to the show. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Richard. Hi, Mike. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. So we've got a bunch of questions and we've got a lot of time, but I want to start with the first question because I think it's important. How did you get started with rendering?
Well, the short story is I had taken a new job, I suppose, with a company that every product they made, or 90% of the products they made, was custom one-off design. So they sold everything from a concept. At the time, it was a concept drawing, sort of a hand sketch. Sometimes it was colored up with some pencils. But they would create products that were, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they would sell them from a picture. And it always amazed me that people would spend that much money just from a hand sketch drawing. And so one of the reasons I was hired was to sort of bring CAD to this company and move them into the 3D world. And at the same time, we thought that doing photorealistic rendering would help the sales process. So that's where I sort of picked it up and learned it. And I've been running with it ever since.
So you say you've got 11 years. You've been doing this for about 11 years. So I imagine you've done an awful lot of projects. Do you have any favorites that stand out? Anything that maybe our audience might have seen in public or in ads?
I would say things that stand out to me is anything that is sort of, I like to do stuff that's unusual, right? So a lot of my work is creating sort of images for brochures, catalogs, and they're all pretty much the same. They want a sort of a hero shot, and it's got to look good, and so that type of work is fine. But I always like the projects where you need maybe some elaborate exploded view or a section view, or you're overlaying a rendering or maybe a section rendering over the actual photo of a product or something like that. So anything that's kind of out of the ordinary, I like. And I did have a client. This was actually a cool project. I had a client that I had done a lot of still images for the trade show booth that they were developing. And they hooked me up with, they had an in-house web designer that did all of their web stuff. And him and I hooked up together. And in the trade show booth, what they had done is they had a screen with a picture of a remote control. So this company designs and manufactures heavy equipment, and some of it is remote control operable. And so they had a screen in the trade show booth that had a picture of their remote control, And what I had done is created a rendered animation for each action that the remote control did. So, one button may move an arm up and down, and one button may open and close a door. And so that was on a screen in front of this controller. So someone could go into the trade show booth, they could push the button on the controller, and the animation would play, just like if they were operating the equipment sort of in real life. So that was a pretty interesting project to make it all work. And I didn't go to the trade show, but I understand that it was a big hit at the trade show. So that was cool.
Yeah, what a novel concept of doing it that way. That's I never thought of creating renderings. I mean, you're essentially, it's almost like you're doing a mechatronic rendering. You know, you're creating a nice rendered scene based on each of the inputs that you're providing to the device. I mean, that's a really cool, clever concept. That's pretty cool, pretty brainy.
Yeah,
So
it took a little while to figure out, like I said, but it came out really well.
Nice.
So, before I started as a user group coordinator, and I've been doing that for a long time, I was a designer actually in real life a long time ago. And I remember, doing some renderings, but for me, the average designer, the average engineer, it really amounted to, ooh, this is fun to play with. I guess I never really understood from the average designer or engineer standpoint, how does rendering help them? How does it help them design better products? Or does it not help them?
Well, I suppose that's a matter of opinion. For me, I guess my answer to that would be, there's always someone that you're trying to sell your idea or design to. So, I mean, I think most people think of a rendered image as a way to set, in retail, but it might be as simple as, you want to sell it to your manager or your manager's manager, or, someone else in your company. You have this idea, and maybe 3 or 4 of your colleagues are all working on the same problem, and you want your idea to stand out a little more than theirs, or maybe you want to better explain it more than they do. So doing a quick rendering, I think, is a great way to explain your design to people who may not be able to interpret maybe a 3D CAD model or even a 2D drawing well enough to know exactly what's going on. So I think that is one reason why a designer, or you're an engineering type, might want to use it. But at the same time, I guess it depends on what you're designing. But if you really want to know what your product is going to look like, or your design is going to look like in front of a consumer, I think it's, you can do a rendering in a quick one in 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. And it may not be perfect, but let's say you're using a variety of different materials, or even a variety of different, say, paint colors or finishes on different metals, seeing all those together might allow you to come up with maybe a better design in terms of aesthetics. Or you may have an idea and then see the aesthetic in real life and be like, oh, that's not what I wanted, or oh, I need a different color, or these two colors work well together. So I think all of those are actually benefits that an engineer or designer would get from rendering. I'm sure there's more, but
oh yeah, that's a great answer, and actually kind of leads into my next one, and I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, because I did do a quick render, and I love the part about where you said, to get an idea for the types of materials or the types of colors that you want to look at. So this is a tiny house design of mine that I did a quick render, and this one only took just a few minutes really to apply the different materials and to get the scene rendered. But I got to say, it doesn't really look like a photograph to me. To me, it looks like a toy sitting in a field. So what are some of the common errors that beginners make when they start doing some of these renderings?
Well, in terms of the toy sitting in the field comment that you just made, in that respect, camera angle and sort of background image would take you a long way. to give it more of a, real life perspective. But I think this is going to sound crazy, but I think one of the biggest mistakes that people just starting rendering fall into is they rely almost too much on the software, the rendering software. So a lot of rendering software companies like to promote their software as being really easy to use, and you can have really great results in a short amount of time. And that is true for a lot of this software, but there comes a time when the software will take you so far, but you really have to have some sort of creative element of your own in there to take the images or the renderings to the next level, I think. So, things like making your own materials rather than just using the ones that come stock with it, or developing your own lighting layouts or schemes, or, assembling a bunch of background images that'll work for a variety of different things. So you can use those rather than just showing a blank background or no background. Um, I think it's really about going beyond what's just in the canned software. If you really want to, improve your rendering, take your rendering to the next level, and stick with it, I guess.
Would it be fair to say that, perhaps even thinking like a photographer, helps, you're taking a photo of your CAD model and you're trying to get the right kind of shot, would it be fair to think of it in that way? That's the way I've been thinking of it lately in the rendering product that I've been using.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't have, or when I started, I didn't have a lot of photography experience, but I found myself buying photography books. I went out and bought a inexpensive camera to start sort of doing more photography stuff. And the biggest thing that I noticed when I looked more into the photography end of things was they talk a lot about composition. How do you frame your model, or how do you frame your subject, so that you're getting the maximum sort of impact as to what you want to show with whatever you're taking the photo of. And they also talked a lot about lighting, and then, lighting all by itself is a huge topic, and we could spend multiple podcasts on that, I'm sure. But that was the two things that were impressed upon me were composition and lighting. There's different techniques you can use in lighting to bring out different effects in your image, which can really change the whole look of your rendering.
Yeah, you go to Instagram and you look at a picture of somebody that just took a photo with an iPhone, and then you have something with a little bit of lighting, even if it's just a stupid little ring light or something. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that I used to do, I don't do it so much anymore, although maybe I should. I used to find photographs of different things. It could be simple. And then I would try to match a rendering to the photograph and try to figure out, how did they get this effect, or how did they get that effect? Or if I do this, will it look more like a real photograph, or will it not? And I mean, even just the simplest things, like you could take a picture of a pen on a table and try to match that. You learn a lot just doing that.
What a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think on the marketing team here internally, we're thinking about doing something similar as a social media campaign. Is it real or not? And show the rendering, show the original photo. So maybe, hearing this, I think we need to do that. So maybe we will. Cool. That's a great idea, though. Really, it is to really, learn. It's just like how you learn being an artist. My wife is taking, courses and everything, and that's exactly what she's been going through as well for, painting and things like that. Lighting is so key. So totally makes sense.
And a great answer too, because I think you answered my next question, which would be, what tips would you give to somebody just getting started? I think you provided a whole bunch of them right there. Is there one thing, after somebody, they have their package, they know how to run their system. Is there one thing that they should know before they do their first render?
That's a really good question, actually. Well, I think they should know that it's going to get better from the first one on, right? The first one's always the toughest one. But
Thank you, Rob. That makes me feel better about the one that I just showed. So I really appreciate that.
I don't know. I don't know if there's something someone should know other than yes, they are going to get better, and it's going to take a little time to learn the process. But once you know the software, I would say the next most important step is understanding. I'm going to say understanding photography, although I'm not sure that is the correct term. But the software is one piece of it, and then the other side of it is composition, lighting, more realistic sort of materials, and putting them all together into something that in the end looks more realistic. So
yeah. Great advice.
Yeah.
So I understand that your business is doing well these days, and you're still up there in northern Vermont, correct? If people wanted to contact you, maybe get some renderings done, maybe talk to you about this a little bit more, do you have a website or?
Yeah, my website is www.axis.cadsolutions.com. And yeah, I'm all the way up here in northern Vermont. It's a little cold right now, but spring will be here before we know it. But yeah, my website can tell you how to get in contact with me. It's got a portfolio there. It's got some basic information on the process I use to create images. I haven't done anything in quite a while, but I have a fair amount of learning resources there. If you have been using some older rendering products, I do have some learning resources there too. But yes, there's a bunch of stuff at the website. That's the best way to contact me.
Yeah, and for our listeners, that was a setup question. I've been to that I've been to that website many times, and I know that it's just fantastic and full of information. So I highly recommend everybody check it out.
Yeah, it looks great. Just checked it out.
Any outgoing thoughts, Rob? Any further questions there, Michael?
Well, I'd like to get Rob's kind of feedback on my rendering that I just did right before the webcast here.
There we go.
Let me, I'll add
We could have a whole podcast of just critiquing renderings.
It's true. And I've been getting into photography too, and we do that with each other. So it's kind of a similar thing. So this is something I did just a few minutes ago. I'm not finished yet. You can see all these little mechanical parts I haven't done yet, but it's,
I think it looks great. Is the leaf part of the CAD model, or is that not?
The leaf is done. So here I am. I'm inside of Onshape. So here's just I just modeled a quick leaf to throw it on. It's just an Onshape model with some cool wings and stuff like that. And the way the rendering works in Onshape, you just kind of add a tab to your document. As part of the history of the document. And I just went full screen on this, but, here's the actual interface, right? So, I just, here's all the parts that make it up. Then you have your libraries of environments and appearances. So, as you said, knowing your appearances and setting all the different, not just taking the basic, material settings by themselves, but modifying all the things relating to, if I were to select on this piece of carbon fiber here, on this carbon fiber ladybug, a little scary, but, you're obviously going to change the scale factor of the way the materials look and the, which angle they'd be rotated at, and perhaps, setting some different, you can even pick different materials to layer over it and have multi-layer materials and, different color coats and things like that. It's a very, there's a lot of settings here. Not everybody's going to know every setting on day one, but, I think going through those kind of things are important. Same thing with your lighting, the way this particular rendering works, the Onshape Rendering Studio, the lighting is coming from the HDRI environment. So as you drag and drop different, scenes on here, that's going to change the the rendering. And, I've not installed anything, on my computer to do this. This is just, I'm running in a Chrome browser, and this is the live interactive performance, and as you let it kind of sit there, it'll just,
Yeah, it's really really quick actually. So one of the things I really actually notice on here, and that's one of the reasons why I asked if the leaf was part of the CAD model is, and you totally showed it when you changed the HDR. But so what I think this goes to your photography experience, but basically you've taken your model, you've given it a platform, which in this case happens to be that leaf, and then you've sort of depth of field the background out, so you can change your HDR images or even other backgrounds behind this model, but the base and the model itself are still perfectly fine, right? So you've given yourself a really good composition setup in terms of you're putting your model on display. It's on a believable platform with the leaf, and then you've allowed yourself to have endless possibilities in the background, and it's all believable. At least it is to me. So, and the fact that the depth of field is there even makes your background possibilities even larger, but it draws focus to your CAD model itself. So I definitely would say that your photography experience is coming through there.
Cool. Yeah. You can, focus on it just like this. I'm going to focus my depth of field right there. So that way we're seeing the crisp kind of carbon fiber here. And I'm using a 1.8 f-stop lens right now. I'm essentially telling it that. So, if you really, wanted to go to a more, open, or close light lens, you could actually just crank that number up. So a lot of the photography like things are coming through in the settings here, with it's almost like you have Photoshop essentially, with your CAD models, the way this is set up, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then here's the final render. You can just, that I was just using the interactive mode. You can always publish the full production, image as well, and share that link with anybody, and they would have access to it.
Nice.
Very nice. And that's our model of the week as well, isn't it, Michael?
That's right. Yeah, we'll put a link to the model of the week on the show notes, so everybody else can take copies of it, and do what they want with it. So,
well, Rob, I tell you, it's been great seeing you again. It's been a long time, and probably too long, but I want to definitely thank you for coming on the show with us today. I learned a lot. I can't wait to get back into my rendering and get that toy out of the field. Maybe I'll put it on a leaf. I don't know.
Good answer. Yeah. Well, it was good talking to you guys too. It's been a while since I've talked to both of you. So.
We're gonna. We've got a couple of things left. You're welcome to hang around with us. We're gonna move right into the release, latest releases, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let me go ahead and add my screen again here, and I'm going to go to another Chrome tab. So the last update we had was the end of, I think it was a Friday, like not this past week, but the week before. So, it was past our recording date. So every 3 weeks we have the Onshape updates, which happen without any user feedback, any kind of obviously user feedback, but without any kind of user action, right? You just sign in and you have access to your latest improvements. And the biggest, most long time improvement that people have been waiting for was a comprehensive weldment/frame system, right? So we've had custom features to do this. You could certainly do this in Onshape before, but now we have a full-fledged 100% integrated function in the system here, where you start with sketches or model edges. And, I'll just speed this video up from the What's New notes here that Neil Cook had generated. A lot of people probably know who Neil Cook is. He's been with Onshape now for about 5-6 years, and was with SolidWorks before that. And before that was even with PTC. But he's a long-time, well-known person in the industry. And he created the custom feature for frames several years ago. And, of course, he's going to show off the latest, fully fledged, fully baked in feature for frames. So essentially you just select profiles as a profile library. You go ahead, you stick it on. This looks just like what you would expect in many other kind of frame generators and other systems. So it's all here, and you can obviously customize and use your own libraries of features as well. So that's all here, and it's generating. You're just going to go through and select all these. You notice that he's not concerning himself with how they're trimming yet, and that's a very, very important part of the way Frames has been built in Onshape. Is you go ahead, you can trim them on the fly, but there's this really, really powerful parametric ordered trim that comes up, right? So that's what he's doing here. He, instead of trimming the faces manually, he can create these ordered groups. So this group gets priority first for trimming. The next group gets priority. Then the third group, we have a tertiary group that he's going ahead and grouping things. So that way, not only is it more reliable initially, but if you make design changes later on in the process, they're going to update much more reliably, because you're not like doing like manual trimming face to face. You're doing trimming to these parametrically ordered groups, right? So that's one thing that kind of goes above and beyond what you might have seen in some other CAD programs. Also, here's the cut list right here, model based, right here in the modeling environment, and it's generating a cut list. You can even customize this cut list to include any other descriptive properties. We're gonna have a full show on this at some point, because it's been one of the most popular things that people have been wanting to have natively in the Onshape environment. And then, of course, you're going to be able to make a drawing and stick your dimensions and call outs and cut list on there as well. So we're pretty proud that finally was made available. Like I said, you could do this before, but this is now fully built into the workflow of the system. So you're gonna rebuild your tiny house with the frame feature, right, Richard?
You bet. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. This one, this is kind of related to what Rob was talking about just a few minutes ago. The ability to create sections here. Let me just.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, so you can include or exclude depending on what's easier, but just go ahead, create your section view, and now you can just cut through what you want just in the CAD modeling environment. And you can save these as named views. You can, if you shared this with a colleague read only, they would have access to all these section cuts and everything as well. The free viewer person that signs into Onshape could do all this too, which is pretty cool. Other stuff on aesthetically pleasing products, right? We've had zebra stripes in the system for quite some time, but now we're providing some more options as customers get more sophisticated. They want to be able to, show the model edges or hide them, flip the stripes, change the amount of stripes. So, I won't play the video there, but it's an important part. Same thing here for advanced surface modeling. We have lots of customers that are making demands, to have extremely good visualization plots and curvature continuity combs and things like that. So, this continues to receive updates, the curvature analysis options that are available. Now you can set the number of U and V curves yourself. Obviously, when doing advanced product design, especially when importing models, like this might be a gearbox that you downloaded from some supplier somewhere, and it comes in and it's less than perfect. You're going to be able to fill in open gaps very quickly. We've already had the ability to do that, but now right in the right-click menu, you can just like right-click and loop, and then generate a filled surface or something like that, right? So
nice. That's a good one too.
Yeah, it's a good one. Variables, once again, something that's been in the software for quite some time. We added a variable table to make it very easy to manage many different variables, but you also have the ability to set a description now, on those, instead of looking, what is D, what is H, what's TD, well, now you can put in a description, right?
Yep. I've seen all kinds of variable names that, you just don't know what they were for.
This one, another popular one, batch export from the tab manager. Everybody knows that you can share an Onshape document just like you share a Google document by hyperlink or hitting the share button, right? But there's still processes in companies where people need to have an exported file for whatever reason, right? A file's a 4-letter word at Onshape, but we can export these as separate files in a bulk fashion now. You can select a whole bunch and just export them, and it'll give you a zip file with all of the, in this case, probably a PDF of all these drawings. But you could do the same thing for, 3D models as well. If you needed a backup, Parasolid file or something like that for importing into your CAM system, or if you're using another rendering program and you want to bring it into that, there's obviously many reasons for exporting a file, but only do it if you have to. That's my recommendation, because once you export a file, it's something you have to manage. So I'll take my PDM hat off now. You can customize custom tables. That's another good one. So this was all just in the last update. This is a really long list this time, Richard. My goodness. So that's why I'm kind of going through it a little bit fast. But custom tables are something I use all the time in a part studio. Like you can see, I have several pieces of sheet metal and some other kind of custom machine parts here. The part custom table that comes with Onshape, gives you the part mass and material for each of the parts in the parts list. But, you can actually customize this and add and remove columns, to this without having to write your own custom script to do it. So that's what's been added there. Another thing on custom features, custom features in Onshape, just to kind of let you know where you'd find custom features. Let's go to the Part Studio. Probably of the leaf that I just generated here. But all your custom features are kind of off here on the side, and I have a huge treasure trove of these features. But let's say you don't have access to all those features, you don't know that they exist. Let's say I wanted to do wiring, right? It's going to search into the Onshape public library of wiring and let me add that to my toolbar, right? So now I just added the wiring feature to my list.
Perfect.
Right. So really easy to do that. So that's what they're talking about here. Oh, drawing improvements, your favorite part,
I love
Richard.
drawings.
All right. Makes it very easy now to make same as but different kind of views now that you can copy and paste existing drawing views. So Control or Command V or C, depending on your Windows, Mac, Unix, Linux, whatever operating system you're using Onshape from, Raspberry Pi or whatever.
Or I imagine right-click copy, right-click paste.
Yeah, I wonder. I haven't
Haven't
finished
tried that?
watching this video. Let's see here. He's gonna select here and select that. Yeah, right click.
How
Just
about
like you
that?
expected. Yeah, how about that? So that
I
sounds
would
like
expect
Mel,
nothing less.
Mel Allen. We were talking about baseball earlier before the call. It sounds like, how about that from Mel Allen? Remember that? I don't know. Maybe I'm showing my age there. Baseball announcer for LA Dodgers, I think. But anyway, inspection items have been receiving, if you're doing any kind of quality control and you want to put inspection bubbles in your drawing, you can do that now natively in Onshape. You don't need some separate add-on software to do this. It's just part of the experience if you have an Onshape account. And put the inspection bubbles on. Now you can hide and show them instead of creating a separate drawing with them. The other thing with the inspection items that you can do is, take, and establish items in the title block themselves instead of just dimensions or notes. And this is important, depending on which standard that you're creating inspection reports for, if you're doing AS9102 or PPAP or all the different types of inspection reports. Of course, Onshape will export all the dimensions and notes that you tag and bubble to an Excel spreadsheet or CSV file, whatever, or Google Sheets, whatever you want to do, right? And, now you can select more items, essentially. And more on drawings. ISO ordinate dimension styles look a little different. So our European friends or people that use the ISO standard will appreciate that. Oh my gosh, even more drawing stuff. This was crazy. The view direction arrow and view label just makes it, more professional looking drawing, right? You can do auxiliary views. We've had that for a long time, but just, having it place the label in a better way. It was nicer. And this is one of my favorite ones here as an enterprise administrator. I usually joke that I lost all my hair being a PDM admin over the years. After I left the reseller community and the world of SolidWorks and everything, I worked there for a long time, and I went to a company to do data management, and it was just a lot of work, a lot of calls in the middle of the night. But this one's really nice for a CAD administrator to kind of see, what the usage is going on in the company, right? I can see who was last signed in and into the system in your company management stuff. So there's a bunch of other stuff here. I encourage you to look at the forums. There's, we just released rendering a few weeks ago. Now there's still more improvements that they'll continue on, just like everything else. More courses, more video updates, and of course all the users here, making sure they get their words in here, because it's, after we do the update and all the users are here kind of commenting, our developers kind of come in, and Greg's the head of product management, and he'll come in and talk about stuff, and because things are new, right? People are gonna have questions, so it's really cool. So
that's my second favorite thing to do after a new release comes out. First of all is to go through the release, and secondly to go through the comments and just see all the wows and the how people are, how excited folks get each and every time. Really, I mean, there's never a dull release when it comes to Onshape.
Yeah, I always love doing the what's new. Like even when I was like a long time ago SolidWorks person, and we would do the yearly update. I would just love, that was my favorite day of the year, was to be the person to hand, to be the Santa Claus handing out the presents, at the events. It was just like.
And now we get to hand them out every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks, yeah.
Every 3 weeks is Christmas.
So yeah, that was. Well, I got to take a sip of water or something. That was quite the.
Yeah. Hey, you did a great job going through that, Michael.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we finish up the show with one of my favorite topics, and that is Onshape user groups.
Yeah. Definitely.
So assuming that everybody is listening to this on the morning of March 10th or the afternoon of the March 10th, there's still time to sign up for the user group meeting on March 10th. Nacho Martos, technical services engineer here at Onshape, is going to take another stab at his presentation. We had him scheduled a few weeks ago, and there were some internet problems. So basically, we all sat around and talked for a while and didn't get to it. But he's going to be presenting, and I love this title, Strategies to Import Production-Grade Data into Onshape, Accelerating Time to Value. In other words, we're going to be taking a look at imported geometry. Brian LaGrange has set up a great meeting for March 17th. The theme for that meeting is going to be Formula Racing. And we've got a great guest, Roger Smetaniak, who races in the Northwest Formula Continental Series. He's going to be discussing his racing experiences, and he's also going to show us a project that he's been doing in Onshape. We'll also have a couple of Onshapers on hand. Greg Brown will be there. Greg's big into racing and into cars. I imagine he'll be able to show off his RC Racer that he built in Onshape, so that'll be a good one. And then to end the month on March 24th, we're going to do another show and tell meeting. These have turned out to be pretty popular. We've done show and tell meetings for your favorite models. We've done show and tell meetings for your favorite motion assemblies. And this time we're going to do an entire meeting focusing on rendering. So we're going to get Onshape users that have had the time now to take a look at Render Studio and create a bunch of renderings, and they can bring them in, show them off. We'll talk about them. We'll discuss them. We'll get some tips from some fellow Onshapers, and that'll be a great meeting. So we've got a great month of March in the user group network.
Absolutely. Well, this was a fun show today, Richard.
It sure was.
Rob, I mean, it was so awesome reconnecting, and hopefully we're not strangers again for too long. Definitely reach out if you have questions on stuff, but let's not be strangers.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ping you guys on some Onshape questions that I had just from watching the What's New stuff.
Very nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I have to tell you. We know how you can get a free account to start with. That's pretty easy. So,
yeah, I might have to do that.
Great. Well, thanks again, Rob. Really appreciate it. Michael, great show. Still so excited to be doing this, and it's still so much fun. And for our listeners out there, I know I say it almost every time. Most of the time I forget, but please subscribe to the podcast. Hit the like button for us. Leave a note. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to hear about. And with that, I think we're done.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys later.
Bye.